In our last lesson, we were introduced to the angel Gabriel who had delivered the good news to Zechariah. But that was not the end of his mission. He now has a new one. We can see that the first chapter of Luke here is jam-packed with action, and it's meant to get us excited about God's plan that's about to unfold. In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary. Let's begin with the setting of this passage. Luke tells us that this event took place in the 6th month. Most likely, this is a reference to the previous account. This happened in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy. And this time, God sent the angel Gabriel to a place called Nazareth in Galilee. Now, a quick review of some basic geography in the Gospels. The angel first appeared to Zechariah at the temple in Jerusalem, which is in Judea in the south. And now, Gabriel is sent to Nazareth in Galilee, which is in the north. Nazareth was not a big city like Jerusalem. It was very likely just a small village in the 1st century. The angel is sent to a young lady named Mary. Luke tells us 2 things about her. First, she's a virgin. She has never been in a sexual relationship. And second, she's engaged to a man named Joseph, who is a descendant of King David. Now, back in Jesus' time, getting engaged was quite different from what it is today. Jewish marriages in those days had 2 stages. The first stage is the engagement or the betrothal, which could happen when a woman was as young as 12 or 13 years old. This engagement is an agreement to marry, and it requires a dowry and the presence of a witness. And the important point is that after the engagement, while the bride continues to live with her parents, she is legally recognized as the wife of her husband. She is not considered as a fiancé who is not yet married, but rather the engagement actually means that they are officially and legally married. After the engagement, the second stage will happen about 1 year later. They'll have the wedding ceremony, and only then will the husband take the wife home. So it's important to understand that when Mary was engaged to Joseph, she was considered to be already married to him. But at that point, she was still living with her parents. She had yet to move in with Joseph, so the very young Mary was still a virgin with no sexual experience. And he came to her and said, "Greetings, O favored one, the Lord is with you." When the angel appeared to Mary, he greeted her and addressed her as the favored one. It means that God's grace, God's special favor is upon her. The angel didn't just say this out of formality or even out of flattery. He really means it. As we can see from the next thing he says to Mary, "The Lord is with you." Notice that the angel is not wishing her, "May the Lord be with you," but giving her the statement, "The Lord is with you." It's not a wish that God would be with her, but a statement that God is now with her. David Garland, quoting Francois Bovon in his commentary, reminds us that in the Old Testament, when God chose a person and promised to be with him, it often meant that he had been given a special mission, a special task. So this greeting to Mary was more than just words of reassurance. It also implies that a responsibility, a mission will follow. But she was greatly troubled at the saying and tried to discern what sort of greeting this might be. Mary wasn't only troubled by this supernatural appearance of the angel, but moreover by what the angel has just said to her. What does it mean that she is a favored one before God? What does it mean that the Lord is with her? What is she supposed to do? And the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God." The angel hasn't said anything new here. He's just repeating what he's just said to help Mary calm down. The angel tells her not to be afraid and assures her that she's not getting into any trouble. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's a very good thing because she has found favor with God. The angel will now go on to explain what this blessing is all about. And behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus. When we think of pregnancy, it's natural that the first things that come to mind are family and relationships. But in the Old Testament, we see that when God announces the birth of a child, or when God names a person, it often means that God has chosen the person for a special mission. Luke doesn't tell us what Mary is thinking at the moment, but she may very well understand that this pregnancy isn't just about her. Because all these things before her, the supernatural appearance of the angel, the announcements of the child's birth, and the naming of the child, they are all pointing to the fact that God is going to use this child for a very special purpose. And this child would be called Jesus. The name Jesus was the Greek transliteration of the Hebrew name Joshua. So Jesus and Joshua, they are actually the same name in different languages. It was a common name in those days, nothing special about it. But what is more significant is the meaning of the name. The name Jesus means Yahweh saves, or Yahweh is salvation. Matthew, in his gospel, further explains its meaning. Why is Jesus given this name? He is called Jesus because he will save his people from their sins. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The angel goes on to explain the significance of this child. First, he will be called Son of the Most High. The Most High, as the name implies, refers to the one with the highest authority, which of course refers to God. In the Old Testament and other Jewish writings, this is a common title for God. So here, Son of the Most High literally means Son of God. In the Bible, the term Son of God is used in a few different ways. We'll take a closer look at the meanings of this term in the next lesson. And the Lord God will give to him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end. The series of descriptions here, to be given the throne of King David, to reign forever, to have a kingdom with no end, all these are saying that this child will be the king of Israel. And more importantly, they point to the fulfillment of one of the most important covenants in the Bible, the Davidic covenant. What is the Davidic covenant? It is a covenant that God made with King David in 2 Samuel chapter 7. God said to him, "When your days are fulfilled and you lie down with your fathers, I will raise up your offspring after you, who shall come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. When he commits iniquity, I will discipline him with the rod of man, with the stripes of the sons of men. But my steadfast love will not depart from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away from before you. And your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before me. Your throne shall be established forever." This covenant was partially fulfilled in other kings of Israel. It was fulfilled in David's son Solomon, who built a house, a temple for the Lord. It was also fulfilled in many unfaithful kings when they were disciplined by God with the rod of man, with the oppressions of their enemies for their disobedience. But despite these partial fulfillments, one key aspect of this covenant remains unfulfilled. Israel at the time was no longer a sovereign kingdom. They had been ruled by Babylon, by Persia, by Greece, and now by Rome. But the Jews at the time, they were not hopeless, because the Davidic covenant looked forward to an ultimate king from the line of David, where his throne and his kingdom would be forever. They were hanging on to God's promise that one day God would send this anointed king to bring salvation and to rule over an everlasting kingdom of God. And it's through the lens of the Davidic covenant that we'll be able to appreciate the significance of what the angel says to Mary. And the Lord God will give to him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end. The angel is essentially saying that this child will be a king of Israel. And he's not just any king. He is the promised king in the Davidic covenant, whose throne and kingdom will be everlasting. This child, this king, will bring God's reign and salvation to his people. What the people of Israel have been hoping for, this messianic hope, is finally coming to fulfillment. This is really good news. But looking at how Zechariah responded, we gotta feel a bit worried for Mary. How is Mary going to respond to this?